A quick lesson in the Slovene language. Bing! Lesson 1. Scala means rock, big rock. There it is, like a Škoda Scala or a Škoda rock, but not that one, it's this one. A smaller family car that has a few clever things, like all Škodas, of course, because their motto is simply clever. So for example, if you go and park your car, instead of putting your parking ticket here and then closing the doors and it'll blow away, you can place it back here behind the windscreen. And another thing, instead of buying a horrifically expensive Rolls-Royce just so you can have an umbrella, you can have one in the Skoda as well. And there's more. The boot, or the trunk, is also quite interesting. First of all, you've got two very big hooks here on the left and right, so you can have something heavy hanging there. And then you've got no less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different hooks around the entire compartment for whatever. You can leave your wife in a shopping center for a whole 5 minutes and you'll still be able to have everything, hanging in bags. Don't hurt me. Also, you've got this nice 12-volt plug-in here for, I don't know, a light or a little tiny fridge or something. And there's more! Back here, where the fuel filler cap is, you also find this little tool for de-icing your car or de-snowing. Now that's really thoughtful. You'll never be found again without one, unless of course you put it somewhere. And it's got this straight edge, it's got these nice little ice scraping edges, and of course if you look really closely you also have this little bit which you can use to see when you have to change your tires. The designers didn't want to take any chances with the car, so no extravagance here. The front certainly doesn't hide its straight lines. The wheels range from 16 to 18 inches. That's extra, of course. The Škoda Scala is quite interesting, because rarely do I get a car that has so many big pluses, but also big minuses, so they sort of cancel each other out. It's odd. First of all, I really like what they did with the design and the doors. The doors, I think, look very interesting. You've got some soft touch materials up here. Yes, you have some hard plastics down here, but you don't usually touch it there. And I really like what they did with the whole design of the handle and the textures here. And just generally the dashboard, I think looks quite good. And then the next thing are the seats. Sometimes, especially in smaller cars, even though the Scala isn't really such a very small car, I sometimes complain about the seats being too narrow, that it's not very comfortable for me because I'm a little bit wider. And not here. They're very supportive from all sides, everywhere, but they still feel very comfortable. I probably wouldn't mind driving this over longer distances at all. So that was the plus, well, some of the pluses. And here's another thing, the infotainment screen. Okay, so this Škoda with this equipment level has the smaller display. And it's okay, I don't really mind it, even though it does look a little bit weird perhaps because of the giant bezel around it, but it does have physical buttons on the left and right, so that's good. And that's the thing, physical buttons. Here we go. So, let's say I want to change my, I don't know, speed of the fan, or maybe turn on the air conditioning, or maybe set where the air is going. All of those things, instead of being down here where there are some physical climate control buttons, you have to do on the screen. So on the left I've got a temperature control for me. On the right is a button for temperature control for the passengers, or for the passenger, and then a few buttons which, well, are just heated seats and heated windscreens and so on, and menu and off, 2 giant buttons. So you have to press menu. The display then shows you climate controls, and then here on the touch screen you have to set where the air is going and your fan right there on the right. And where am I looking? I'm looking at the screen instead of the road. And last time I was driving this car, it was really hot outside, I wasn't very familiar with it yet, and I wanted to just have the air conditioning and the fan speed up. And it was ridiculous. I had to look at the screen figuring, wait a second, what the heck? And the fan graphics are fine, they're nice, but you have to pretty much look at the screen to see what you're doing, and half of the time it doesn't really register your finger, your touch, if you're doing it like this, if you're not very precise. Simply clever? Simply annoying. Why is this necessary? There's 2 giant buttons here, menu and off on the climate controls. Why is the off button so important? And why is the menu button so big? I mean, instead of the off button, you could have fan speed controls there. I mean, how many times do you say, oh, I need a quick shortcut to turn off my climate control? Oh. Okay, so now it's raining outside, even though you will see that it's not raining, that it's quite nice outside. Quantum physics at play again. Anyway, let's talk about other pluses and minuses, which is the engine. This one has the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder diesel engine with, I believe, 115 horsepower. Anyway, usually I would say get at least a 2 liter with, I don't know, at least 150 horsepower. But I have to say, as a big plus of this car, I am very, very surprised by the economy and the power of this little engine. Right now, the average consumption is 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers, but you should be able to get this down because I was trying out the engine a little bit and on the highway, and we were recording it and so on. But if you put your foot down after the turbo lag, I mean, it just pulls and pulls and pulls. It's really surprising. And when I was really taking it economically, the average consumption in about 6 kilometers or so, when I was going from my home to my colleague, was, I believe, 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is, or was it like 3.4? It was something ridiculous. I looked at it and I said, whoa, that's really good. Okay, so that was a good thing. Now, here's the big minus. As you might have noticed, I mentioned turbo lag. If you're driving normally in a city, it's not really that noticeable, unless you suddenly need power. So if I'm in second gear at around 1200 RPM and I put my foot down, okay, I need power. Oh, nothing's happening. And okay, put my foot down, there we go. There's a lot of turbo lag. Pretty much nothing happens below 1500 or maybe even 2000. And there's a lot of turbo lag because it is a small engine with a slightly bigger turbo. So you have to be aware of that. But otherwise it is a very nice engine. So another thing I want to talk about is just the general feel of driving this car, which I would say is pretty fantastic. I have to defog my windscreen, and as you can see, the brilliant climate control means that I have to keep looking down at it instead of the road. What a ridiculous thing. Anyway, I love the feel of how this car drives. Like the Golf, really. I mean, in a way, it is a Golf. The steering wheel is fantastic. It's just the right thickness, I would say. It feels great with this leather. It has just the right amount of the servo helping you. It's electric, of course. And I think it's just a general feel of a combination of this 6-speed manual, which is excellent, the steering wheel, the comfortable seats, the engine, and also the way the car sits on the road when you're taking corners. It's very composed. It doesn't bend. It's just really, really fun to drive. So that is one big plus this car has that I don't really think there's a minus for. Except that climate control.
The base Scala starts at 15,500 euros. For the fully equipped one with a diesel engine and automatic transmission, you'll be paying 32,000 euros.